Good morning, YouTube. It's been a couple months since I sold the F430. And I finally got around to totaling up all the costs I had on that car. So I want to go through in detail all the costs and expenses related to my F430 and how much it really costs to own that car.
Can't stop, won't stop. Can't stop, won't stop. Can't stop, won't stop. Can't stop.
So that deputy got you guys at 106.
First thing is that, of course, as you know, I bought the car for $94,000. And when I bought it, it had about 32,700 miles on it. 32,715 was the official number. So in 2016, I ended up spending about $450 in interest on my loan for the car. Spent $675 in insurance, $200 in maintenance, and another $700 in parts, which included fixing my stereo, and the wheel liners were missing. One of them was missing, one of them was shattered. The maintenance was simple stuff like oil change. Son of a bitch. And air filters. So in 2017, the car had about 34,000 miles at the start of the year. So I only drove it a couple thousand miles in 2016 and didn't really drive it a whole lot. But in 2017, I ended up driving about 7,000 miles. Interest on my loan was $1,150. I did finance about $75,000 of the $94,000. Insurance was $1,800. So insurance was pretty big in 2017. Maintenance, $4,100. So my maintenance really started to pick up costs. That included oil change, transmission fluid change, air filters, the wheel bearing, brake fluid, motor mounts, CV boot, heat shields, tires, battery, headliner repair, and spark plugs. So quite a bit of maintenance in 2017. But the big thing was in 2017, I did the exhaust.
Yeah. Let's work on a Ferrari.
Headers, the X-pipe, the valves, all of that stuff ended up costing me $7,500 total. Also included the PPF and a tune and some other things. Basically, optional expenses in 2017 were much, much larger than the maintenance stuff that I wanted to do. 2018 started off around 40,000 miles, ended around, I don't know exactly where I ended it, but I know I drove it about 10,000 miles. So pretty good amount of miles. Interest was about $1,050, so the interest was coming down as reduced the principal. Another $1,800 in insurance. That's just how much it cost to insure that car. $1,600 in maintenance, which basically was oil changes, tires, air filters. Parts was only $175, so I really didn't modify the car much in 2018, partly because I was happy with it. It was just a great car. And also of note, my maintenance costs went down significantly, partly because I started picking up some sponsors. So I got Ricambi to sponsor me, so a lot of the parts I ended up getting for free, so it ended up costing me less and less to maintain the car. So obviously that's not gonna be a typical situation. I don't think the $4,100 of the year before is gonna be typical. I think annual maintenance on that car is gonna be probably in the $2,000 to $3,000 per year range. So 2019 was the last year I owned it. I sold it in April, May-ish. I don't remember exact date. I sold it with 54,000 miles on the car. So the interest in that year was only $360. The insurance was only $750. All of the maintenance and parts on the car were $0. So at that point, my sponsorships had covered all of the maintenance on the car, which I did do some things like the door cable, the oil change, a few other small things like brake fluid flush and ball joints. Not really costing a whole lot for those 4 or 5 months that I owned it in 2019. Here's where stuff starts to get interesting. So I sold it for $80,000. So that means that I lost $14,000 in depreciation. In total, I drove the car 21,285 miles over the course of almost 3 years. In interest, I spent $3,010, which works out to 14 cents a mile, or $1,000 a year. Insurance cost me $5,025, or 24 cents a mile, for $1,675 a year. Maintenance was $6,000 in total, ended up costing me 28 cents a mile and about $2,000 a year. Parts for the car were $8,400, which cost me 39 cents a mile, or $2,800 a year. And then of course the depreciation, the lost value of the car, ended up costing me 66 cents a mile, or $4,670 a year, which means the grand total for owning that car for 3 years and getting 21,000 miles of use in it was $36,435, or $1.71 per mile, or $12,145 per year. So that actually makes it kind of an interesting situation, which is if you bought a brand new daily driver Toyota Camry or something, spending $36,000 on it is about typical, I would say, depending on your options or whatever. But any sort of kind of normal car, $36,000 is kind of in the typical range for them now. But obviously, this wasn't a typical car. So over the course of 3 years, is $36,000 of cost worth it to own that car? Heck yeah. I mean, I think that was a bargain. I got so much joy, so much pleasure and enjoyment out of driving that car, and had so much fun that to me was worth every penny. My costs are probably a bit lower than typical just because of my sponsorships, but I don't think by much. Honestly, the exhaust was a huge part of the optional expenses on that, so if you aren't planning on modifying the car, you're not going to have those sorts of costs. Now, the other big thing is my costs were a lot lower than probably is typical because I did all of the work on that myself. Only things that I couldn't do were like tires. I don't have a tire mount and balance kit. Simple things like that. Oil, brakes, all the fluids, all those things I did myself and saved a ton of money. Had I taken it to a dealership or a shop, I would assume that my costs would have been probably at least double. So instead of $36,000, we're talking $72,000, and it would have cost me about $2.50 to $3 or more per mile to have owned that car and driven it that much. Now that starts to get kind of expensive, and it makes you really wonder, okay, is that car worth it if you're going to be having it serviced somewhere else? And I still would say yes, it is still that much of an amazing car, absolutely worth it. You just have to accept that this is a 100% optional expense on your life. It's not cheap, so be ready to pay, but you're gonna have a lot of fun and enjoy the hell out of it. So that's kind of my standpoint on it. So obviously that leaves us to where we're at today with the 458. I haven't been keeping as good of track of expenses on this car, admittedly. The other thing that's gonna be really fascinating is from the start, I've had sponsorships. So far, I've basically had to spend almost nothing on the car except for tires. I had to buy new tires on it, which ended up being about $1,600. I've driven it a lot already. I've already put, I think, 8,000 miles on it. So we're getting a lot of miles on this thing. So far, not needed a whole lot, just oil change and tires so far. And we've had some other things like headliner repair, and there's some minor things. Oh, and added the radar detector, and we'll be modifying it. So I'm probably gonna end up spending a lot more on mods on this car than I did on the 430. That's what you expect, right? Okay. $36,000 of cost to have owned my 430 for 3 years and 21,000 miles. I think it was absolutely worth it. Obviously, if you drive it less, the depreciation is going to be a lot less than the $14,000 that I took a hit on. Really, we don't know is how time is going to affect the value of these cars. I actually think that the 430 is just about at the limit of the market for the bottom. I think they're going to start going up. So if you own a 430, I think you're going to be all set. Give it 5 years, and I bet they're going to go up in value because they're too much of a good deal right now. Like, you can buy them under 100K all day long, and at that price, it's a screaming deal. I mean, it's still a really, really good car that's very reliable and not that bad to maintain. So they're gonna go up. They have to, because they're encroaching on the price of the 360, and the 360s are already on their way up. So 430s will be going up. All of you that own a 430, you're gonna do fine. I think if you're gonna buy a 430, I would try and buy it pretty soon. Otherwise, I think you're gonna start looking back to six figures pretty soon. That's just my feeling. So hope you guys enjoy this. We're gonna be doing a lot of car stuff. You guys are gonna wanna stay tuned. Don't forget the Testarossa. Yes, we're gonna start working on that car very soon. So you guys are gonna wanna see that. All right, we'll see you guys soon. It's gonna be sweet.